If you're looking for another notebook to accompany your bullet journal, then I have 12 ideas for you, and our first one is that of a yearly collections journal. This one is for any of the collections that span a full year. In particular, collections that span a full year that I don't want to have to set up multiple times. So as you can see, this one was for 2022, so it contained layouts that were going to last the entire of 2022, but I only wanted to set up once. In 2022, I had 3 everyday bullet journals, and I didn't want to set up a word of the year page in every single one of them. I didn't want to set up a goal overview page in every single one of them. Goal action plans, yes, but not the overview. I didn't want to have to rewrite my 101 things list 3 times, because that's a lot of writing, because 101 things is a lot of things. Having a yearly collections journal, where I can keep all of those collections and just set them up once, is much more useful. So it's a place to just refer back to for all of those collections that are going to last the full year, like my 22s in 2022, or my weight tracker, or my yearly collection here for not eating fast food. We'll just ignore the fact that the challenge was not done well, so on and so forth. Our next idea is that of a long-term collections journal, which sounds similar to the yearly collections journal, but I promise you is different. While the yearly collections journal is for yearly collections, the long-term collections journal, unsurprisingly, is for things that are a bit more long-term. So initially this was just for layouts that were going to last longer than the lifespan of one journal, which for me previously was 6 months. But you can see I've got a little blurb here that talks about whether a collection actually belongs here. I've then got an index because this one isn't necessarily chronological, so that can be helpful. But this is for collections that I could in theory set up in my everyday bullet journal, but again, I don't want to have to transfer them every single time I make a new one, and I don't want to have to try and come looking for it if I keep it in those old journals. Having it all in one place makes it much easier. So things like Bujo themes that I want to do, like monthly journal themes. My perpetual calendar kind of thing, so birthdays that I value, holidays that I celebrate or want to celebrate. We've got my apocalypse, because this is my bucket list for life. I don't want to set that up in every new bullet journal. I've also got pages related to reference material. So things like, what can I include in a monthly bullet journal setup? What could I include on a weekly log? We've got some different pages related to media consumption. We've got things like my things to do in list. So things to do in 5 minutes, things to do in 10, another reference type page. Having them all in here just makes it a little easier. I know where to go to reference this stuff, and I don't have to flip back through all of my previous journals, of which there are quite a few. Another type of reference material that I keep in here are swatch pages, because again, I don't want to have to re-swatch all of my pens with every new journal, so having them in here just makes it easier. So these ones are all just swatched out in the back of this journal so that they're nice and easy to reference. And I just have this one-stop shop effectively for all of my pens. Another journal that you might be interested in having as a companion is that of a 5-year journal. This one is set up so I have a little bit of space for each of the days of the year for 5 years in a row. So January 5th for 2023, 2024, 25, 26, 27. In this little bit of space, I can write down things like daily happenings, memories, any wins that I had, challenges that I experienced, effectively anything that I want to. The nice part about having set it up myself is that it is very flexible. I've also color-coded each of the months, so January is pink. If we flip forward to February, you can see that one is red. Then if we go forward again to March, that one's kind of like a light red, salmony kind of color. We then have April, which I've done in a kind of light orange. This one would be very much an everyday check-in kind of thing because you're writing something down for every day, but the space is small, you're only writing a little bit. So because that filling in is simple, it shouldn't take too long to fill in each day. A type of companion journal that is very popular at the moment is that of a reading journal or a media journal. I super love reading journal content. I always think that they are so gorgeous, but the kind of things that you could put into a reading or media journal could be reading or media consumption challenges, or you could put trackers or things like that. These ones are all ideas from my reading challenge idea video, which is linked in the description box, along with any of the other videos that are related to this one. These can just make for nice kind of memory keeping journals about the different media, or books in this case, that you're consuming. Another common type of companion notebook that people have alongside their bullet journal is that of a goal planner. Some people do prefer to just have their goal planning inside their bullet journal, but there can also be value in having your goals separate so that you can get really deep and specific and focused with them. The kind of things you put in there, completely up to you. As per always, these are just ideas, but some things that I had in my one were stuff like a space for goal setting tips, not that I quite filled it in, a space for the SPEM and the SMART goal setting processes. Depending on the type of goal, might fit better with one versus the other. A little section on habit making and habit breaking. So you can have all of this kind of like pre-goal setting information or kind of reference materials, but then you can also have your goal planning, goal setting, that kind of stuff. So brainstorming for what you want your goals to be, thinking about the stuff that you kind of value or what really fires or lights you up, thinking about the anti-vision of you, so what kind of stuff would make you your unhappiest person, and how can we avoid that happening? I find that doing this kind of brainstorming deep dive stuff before setting my goals to be very helpful to actually identify what it is I want to work on. So stuff like the level 10 life, to just check in with my different areas of life, make sure that I'm tracking in the right direction in terms of my happiness with those, and then getting into the actual goal setting. You can see I've also included a space for milestones because it's good to have a place to note down the good stuff that's happening. We need to celebrate progress even if the progress is small, because small progress is still progress. Once you've set your goals though, we then also need places to write out what we're going to do in order to achieve them. So like action plan kind of stuff. If you want to focus more on your self-care or your health, then having a journal dedicated to that could be useful too. Depending on what kind of self-care or what type of health you want to look at, then the structure of your notebook might be a little different. These kind of ideas are related to mental health or mental wellness. So thinking about the zone of control, things you can and can't control, thinking about when something goes wrong, what can you do about it? So it's like, if I'm feeling lonely, what could I do to mitigate or alleviate that feeling? Mood boosters, you could have things like a de-stressing idea list, so things that you can do right now or things that you can do for future you so that future you isn't stressed. My personal self-care journal is this little guy here, so just a very small pocket-sized kind of journal that I can fill with journaling, but also do things like just sticker collages because I find them really relaxing. So just kind of unrestricted creativity, which sometimes ends up looking messy, but is still a lot of fun. If fostering your creativity is important to you, in particular anything related to painting or drawing, that kind of stuff, then another idea is having a sketchbook. This notebook in particular has blank pages, so it was pretty good for having as a sketchbook, but I haven't used very much of it, if I'm honest. What I like to do when I sketch anything out though is write down when I sketched it out, just so that then as I progress through the sketchbook, I can kind of see my progress relating to different styles. As mentioned though, didn't get very far with it, but it might work better for you. A type of companion notebook that I very much value is that of my R&D bujo, or research and development journal. While I mainly use mine as a space to make sample layouts for my idea videos, what you could of course use an R&D bujo for is actually trialing out layouts. So as a place to mock up or sketch out a layout and see if you like it or if it's actually going to work before you put it in your actual journal. I don't know about you, but I can sometimes get kind of particular about how my bullet journal looks, so having a notebook for just messy notes can be really useful too. Sometimes you just want to take a note down quickly, or you just want to take down some kind of scribbly notes or scribbly lettering practice, so having a go-to book to put all of that information in could be useful. This means that that stuff doesn't get lost, you still have a one-stop shop for all of those scribbly notes, but you don't have to put them in your actual bullet journal and, I don't know, compromise your aesthetics. It's okay to want things to look nice. I totally get it. So, messy notes, totally for it. A companion notebook that's a little bit more for fun than for function, you could have a memory keeping journal. These can take a lot of different forms. This one in particular was made for me by my grandmother before she passed away. So she decided to kind of use stickers and stick in photos of her and my grandfather when they were younger and through up until they were teenagers and when they got married and stuff. So it just makes her a really cute keepsake. Like, they made this for me, you know, intentionally picked things out, stuck them in, and it's just really sweet, honestly. You could make something similar to this to pass on to, I don't know, future generations or whoever you want, really. I do encourage you to be mindful of what you're making it in and what materials you're using, because we want anything that you put in this type of journal to last as long as possible. So if you're sticking photos in, making sure you're using acid-free tape so that the pictures don't deteriorate over time, that kind of stuff. But it could be a really cute keepsake to pass on. Another memory keeping type book you could have is that of a travel journal. And as can be expected, this is a place to document notes from your travels. I did used to keep a travel journal, so I'd set up a new section for each of the different trips we took. So this trip was back in 2017. We went to Napier, so I had a space to write down the details of the trip, so when, where, who, that kind of stuff. Where we were going, I had a blank space here, not too sure what the intention was. A space that summarized the funny moments, a space to write down all of my travel diary notes, and this in particular is where the kind of memory keeping gets into it. I did mainly just journal stuff out, have a little sticker from one of the eateries we went to, but you could also stick in photos, other memorabilia, that kind of stuff. Another idea is dedicating a notebook to being a commonplace book. Commonplace books are, according to Wikipedia, a way to compile knowledge, usually by writing information into books. Unsurprisingly, because it's called a commonplace book. Effectively, it's just a space to write down any kind of thoughts, feelings, notes, reading notes in particular, which is what I've got here. People use it to write things down like proverbs, quotes, speeches. Essentially, it's a book of ideas. As a bonus idea, you could also set up a notebook dedicated to how to adult, or effectively those things that you learn as an adult that would have been nice if somebody had told you sooner. Also could be one that you pass on to future generations. If you are still looking for inspiration on how to use your spare notebooks, then I do have a separate video with over 100 ideas. That one's linked here on the screen, so click or tap that one and I'll see you over there.